I'm excited to be here this morning and talk to you about the opportunity that community represents for business and the human aspects of community, the building blocks of actual community, and why that represents such a big idea for businesses today. A couple weeks ago I was here, and this was a little island chain called the Mentawais, which is off the coast of Sumatra in Indonesia. I got a chance to share this island with 10 of the best surfers in the world, a group called the Momentum Generation. This is a group of surfers over the last 20 years who have basically forged what is now professional surfing, which is now a multi-billion-dollar industry. And one of those individuals we got to share the island with was 11-time world champion Kelly Slater. And Kelly's an interesting individual, and I'm going to use him as my first example about the power of community. This is the view that you get of Kelly through the media, through online, through social, right? This is the image that Kelly projects and Kelly's people project of him. Now, this is the image that I get of Kelly now after spending 10 days with him on a tiny little remote island. This is the image that Kelly chose on that tiny remote island. 90% of his time, no joke, he was looking at that little 4-inch screen. And, finally I came up to him and I we were just blown away to be there, and I came up to him and I said, "You're in Indo. Like, you're in Indonesia and you're spending most of your time on your phone." And he said, "I have 244,000 followers on Instagram." And that's all he said. And I'm like, I have 56. So, but, community. It's about Indonesia, but it's also about Instagram today. It's about what you do in person, the interpersonal aspects of community, and now it's also about what you say and what you think and the image that you convey online, the opinions that you have, the person that you are. And to Kelly, that was just as important. The 10 people he was with who were lifelong friends were just as important to him as the 788,000 followers he has on Facebook and Twitter. He didn't want to let either of those communities down, and as a result, it changed the way he behaved. This really confounds businesses today. If you look at that idea of Kelly and the time that he's spending in person and the things that he's actually doing, and then the things that he's projecting online, it gives businesses a very uneven view of who he is, in essence. It's very hard to understand that if you're talking from a business perspective and you want to capitalize on that in terms of selling your product or improving your product or making a connection. But look at this definition of community, just to kick things off this morning. An interacting population, people that are active, they're communicating, they're vocal, they're interpersonal, various kinds of individuals, right, brought together for a common purpose in a common location. That location can either be Indo or it can be Instagram, right? If you look at this definition, you got to see how businesses are just frothing to get at this, right? Really trying to understand how to capitalize on this for better business. The problem is that community is an organic construct. Businesses are saying, you know what? If it's common people in a common location and they're all grouped together, it's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. We can just mass market, mass sell, get the product right to the people. This is going to be easy. So we love community. We think it's great. We're going to support it. The problem is that businesses historically have generalized on this concept too much. And when you generalize and you stereotype, you typically alienate. What businesses don't get is that they are an inorganic construct trying to take advantage of the organic construct of community, the organic construct built off elements of human nature, our psyche, our wants, our needs, our desires, right? And I'm going to make the baseline premise today that it's more increasingly these communities are going to be built off our actions, not just what we think, but actually what we do. Our human nature, as it applies to community, typically falls into kind of 3 basic categories. Number 1, it's utility, right? Use, value. Help me figure something out. Help me be better. Trade something I have for something that you have, right? We'll use the word utility for that, right? Apple User Groups is a good example of a utility-based community built on behalf of a brand. We've, at Rosetta, we've had the benefit and the honor of working with Apple since 1997 and seeing that business build up over time. And user groups was an interesting type of community that got people together on behalf of the brand, and they would sit and talk about how to use the Apple II CI or how to use the Newton or these different products that were coming out on Apple. And these people that were so passionate about the brand and product would get together and make each other smarter. That's an example of a utility-based community on behalf of business. This is a very successful business called U2. It's 30 years old. It grosses millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? Looks like a band to us. It's a business to these four guys. Back in the day, they put out a publication called Propaganda, and this was to their fan base. Online hadn't been really invented as of yet in terms of communicating with the fan base, so they put out a published fanzine, essentially, that allowed them to communicate with their community. When the advent of online came about, they took this print publication and moved it online, and now they deliver bootleg audio, pre-release recordings, concert tickets, all different kinds of entertainment that's actually enhancing their fan base. If you are a committed fan to the brand, you're going to get entertained in a completely different way. If you are a casual fan, you can buy the tickets on StubHub, and you can go to Boo Boo's and buy the record. If you are a committed fan, if you commit to the community, you're going to get entertained in a fundamentally different way through Propaganda. Stay thirsty, right? Identity. You know the powerful thing about community today and how it relates to brands? The brilliance of this campaign is how it was built. The brilliance of this campaign was that the advertising company and the brand realized that their target audience aspired to be this individual. They realized that the 24 to 35-year-old male, educated, in the workforce, that segment aspired to be more interesting. They wanted to differentiate themselves. They didn't want to be the average bear. They wanted something different. And they built this persona around the brand to embody the brand so that the individual and this community that they're selling to is looking at this brand and going, that's me. That's who I want to be. That's funny, it's entertaining, but it's also relevant to who I want to be and where I want to aspire to. Half of who I am, half of who I want to be, right? The impact of this is phenomenal. There's 2 million likes on Facebook for the most interesting man in the world. I just want to remind you guys, he doesn't exist. It's just an advertising campaign. There's 2,000 likes on Facebook for the most interesting man in the world. They have received 1.5 million suggested taglines. Can you imagine that? You don't need an advertising agency anymore, right? Just sift through the ones you like, and then you can spit it out there in your next commercial. 1.5 million suggested taglines for this. And what are the hard business results? This brand grew 15.7% last year and 20% the year before. Total beer sales in that same time period, 2.7% growth last year, 0.4% the year before. It is phenomenal what they've done with this brand, because what they've done is they've mirrored the community. They've mirrored their audience in a unique and fresh way. But you know what? This is what brands will look at community and they'll say, this is how we see you. And you know what the community looks like? It looks like this. It looks like this. This is that guy, right? Ironically enough, this is what they're spending money putting out there, and the reason they're putting it out there is because of this. This guy, whoever he is, this guy, right? Communities are built on very essential and fundamental building blocks called the individual, the human, right? The human needs utility, they need entertainment, they need identity, right? They need to see these things and feel these things in the way that business connects with community and creates value. It's that interpersonal connection that when businesses get, they get to be so much more successful in communicating to their audience than they have been in the past. I'm just going to hang on this slide for a while, just let you guys soak it in. One valuable word of advice, just speaking about rock and roll for a second. The 80s rock band 38 Special, which I all know you guys love, had a very famous song called Hold On Loosely, and the chorus was hold on loosely but don't let go. That is fantastic advice for businesses in relation to community. Businesses can never own you, right? Businesses can only serve you. If you're an online community or you're part of a tribe, doesn't matter if you were 10 people on an Indonesian island or you're 500,000 people who like a certain product, businesses can never try to own you. They have to hold on loosely to the community. They can never let it go. You can't let communities go do their own things and potentially damage the brand. But on the flip side, you can never be so overbearing on behalf of communities that the brand actually owns it. So you have to, we in our business, we coach businesses to take a very loose hold on communities and take advantage of that as much as possible. You guys got enough of this now? I'll move on. Communities have personality. We know communities are personal, right? We know that the most interesting man in the world is built off some kook with a sombrero. Communities have personality. They're feisty. Why is that the case? You don't want to play bridge with Marge here. She'll mess you up. I mean, look at her eyes. She's going for it right there. She's in her element. She's around her people. She is as comfortable and as confident as you're going to get. Communities have personality. In a community, you do and you think and you act with confidence, right? And businesses look at that, interestingly, and they think, man, if one person pipes up and says, hey, I don't like this aspect of your product, it's very challenging for the lone individual to do that. Are you more apt to do that if 500,000 people believe the same thing? Are you okay with picketing by yourself? Or are you okay with picketing with 200 people around you? Do you yell and scream a little louder with 200 people around you? Of course you do. Confidence in the 5 minutes I have left. Confidence. Communities have personality. They bring out the best. They bring out the honesty in people. They bring out the magnified aspect of people. Communities have purpose. They have passion. Businesses, please never underestimate a passionate community. Just ask Nike. Just ask Chick-fil-A. Just ask BP. Ask these organizations what passionate community looks like for them and how well they've been able to leverage that over time. You can't ever forget the passion and conviction that communities have and how they can influence a brand both positively and negatively. So where does this leave us? It leaves us in a really, really awkward place. Leaves us in an awkward place and how businesses are trying to take a look at community and the human element of communities, right? We're in this awkward phase. There is so much choice, right? Individuals have so much choice about what brands to choose and interact with, and on the flip side, brands have, there's just a ton of choice and a ton of decisions made in how you're going to interact with the individual. A lot of people call it multi-channel or omni-channel today. When marketing organizations like ours sit with a brand, they'll say things like, we need social. And the most challenging question you can ever ask a brand when they say something like that is, why? Why do you need it? They don't quite know. They just know they want to attack their individuals and their communities through these channels, but they haven't quite quantified how to do it yet. It's still in its very, very early phases today. But when it happens, and when it happens right, magic occurs. Brand advocacy occurs. Connection points occur. Loyalty, right? You get people shaving logos on the back of their head. You get tattoos that typically end up on the fail blog. Why is this? Why would the individual make such a passionate play toward a brand? There's a lot of reasons for that. That's a completely different talk, right? But when this happens, it is proof positive that capitalism is alive and well. That's for sure. One last point in the time that I have left. In the late 90s, there were two professors at Stanford, Robert Sutton and Jeffrey Pfeffer. And they came up with a concept called the knowing-doing gap. And what the concept was a basic premise that the amount that organizations know and the amount of intelligence within an organization and the organization's ability to actually transfer that to real action is limited. And the quotient between those two things really dictates the efficiency of a business overall. Let's take that premise just for a second and apply it to the concept of community. How do you use social today? And how are you involved in communities? You know, Facebook is an interesting phenomenon. I call it self-serve entertainment. You can go on Facebook and you can post anything you want about yourself, right? You can create the view on Facebook that you want people to see of you. You don't post the picture where you look fat, you post the picture you look skinny. You don't post terrible pictures of yourself, you post good ones. And then when you post good ones, who circles back to go, oh, I wonder who's looking at that? Ooh, I got 13 likes. Woo. Do you realize that's only a portion of yourself that you're extending out there? Do you realize that your opinions, your view of yourself only goes so far in relation to allow businesses to understand how to communicate with you better? In the future, businesses are going to be focused on communities that do. Not just think, not just opinions. They're going to be more concerned about what you actually do and your actions than your words or the opinions. Words and opinions only provide us a partial view of how to take advantage of the relationship between communities and the individual and the brand. And because we only get that partial view as businesses, we're looking for action. I think you're going to see the rise of a new type of social network on this basic and simple concept. It's going to be more about what we do and not what we say. And because what we do and take time on is the actual essence of who we are as humans and how brands and organizations can take advantage of that for the benefit of us and the benefit of products and the benefit of the communities that we're involved in. Have a great day today. Thank you very much.